Guessed what?
What?
It's all about you, man. This is episode 17 of the Move It podcast here with the 5 Diamond Group Advice Realty. My name is Jared Urain.
And this is Isaac.
Welcome. Lex, take it away. Welcome back to episode 17 here of the Move It podcast with me, Jared Urain, and my buddy and business partner, Isaac Ordonez. What's up, man?
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, whatever, man. You were invited every week, and you never want to join me.
Nah, that's not true.
Right. Except for that interview you did for me. It's awesome, dude. Hey, well, it's July, and we are in a new month. Our new theme for this month, we feel, is going to be really specific to quite a number of elements of society. Specifically, there's changes happening in the economy and in real estate. We're halfway through the year, and we feel it's really important that we communicate the current economic forecast of what we anticipate, as well as our expert opinion on what we anticipate happening over the next few months. So it was Isaac's suggestion that we talk more real estate in these next couple of weeks of episodes. So in July, we're going to be talking the economy, a little more on the real estate, as well as how it affects you and I, the everyday Joe Schmo out on the streets, and how we can be prepared for what we anticipate as what they call the recession of what expected to become next year.
Yeah, and so the conversations that I'm having personally is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? And what are assumable loans?
Yeah, right?
And so that's
Hearing a lot more of
something that
Right.
I'm having conversations and I'm having to explain it. So I'd rather let's shoot a video about this so that we could just share this information, have some data to back this up with, and just get everybody well informed. Especially if you're thinking about buying or selling or doing both, like some of our clients are, how to navigate that in this market.
Good. Let's get started with the current market update. Here in Las Vegas, our median price point has softened, as they say, to $440,900, which is just a little over $1,000 less than what it was last month at $442 for just an average home here. Now, we are continuing the same trend that's happening nationwide of our inventory being shortaged. We're now at 1.6 months of options here in Las Vegas. What does that mean to you is that if you are thinking about selling, the prime time is certainly now, because your home can be a spotlight in the marketplace in order to get it sold, not only at list price, if not higher, but most likely with multiple offers. The trend we're seeing nationwide is after closing, most sellers are getting about 3 offers at the minimum, as well as homes being sold in less than 18 days. And so here locally, basically are mirroring those numbers and being able to get homes sold very quickly for multiple offers. Now, what does that translate for buyers if you are looking to buy at this time is that you will need to put in an aggressive offer depending at your price point. If you're in the median price point range, you certainly want to make sure that you're competing a strong offer. If you are shopping in a price point that's lower than the median range here in Las Vegas, well, you need to be prepared to be even more aggressive, because there's certainly what we call the entry-level component, and then also everybody that's trying to shop for a deal.
Yeah, and that's very good points there, because if you think about it, a year ago, rates had increased. Everybody had pulled out from the market or were priced out because of that, right? Yeah. And then you had a small group that's waiting for the market to crash. So they're like, hey, we're going to back out and we're going to buy the same house, for $100,000, right? And so when you look back, and I look back, or I think back to my clients then, the conversation that I was having is, hey, this house is priced for X amount. We can probably go in lower and get closing costs. And that was pretty much the scenario, and that's the same conversation we were having with sellers. Hey, we're going to price it here. We're most likely going to get offers with seller concessions where you're paying for their closing costs just to get your home sold. And that was a conversation. Now the conversation has gone back to pretty much like what we were having at the beginning of the pandemic is inventory is low. So that's causing that, we're having multiple offers. We just got a listing up active. It's not even fully active. Right. No one's seen it yet. We have two or three offers.
3 offers,
right? And within the first couple of days, one over list.
Yeah.
And we're confident that we'll be able to sell it for over list, top dollar.
Correct.
Right. But now our client, who's also a buyer, is having a challenge, the same challenge that most buyers, especially in this price point, are having, which is multiple offers, going over, and having come in with their best foot forward.
Right.
And so now that conversation is, okay, if your price point say is 350,000, we're probably looking at 325 because we're probably going to end up bidding on something and landing at 330, 335, 340, right?
You need to factor in that gap to be able
Correct.
to help you get
Yeah.
to your price point.
Yeah. And so that's very important information to know because market's not crashing.
Right.
Indication of that, right? Low inventory. We know that when inventory is low, prices go up. But we have some of the best qualified buyers right now on the market.
Absolutely correct. In fact, the report today that just came out, the average credit score for most buyers is 765. So we're not dealing with under 700 buyers.
And that teaches you what kind of buyer is. Somebody who's taking care of their credit, understands what credit is.
Correct.
Right? Has a well-rounded credit portfolio. So that means they probably have some auto loans that they have really low rates on, making payments, credit card balances within the threshold, the best threshold, which is under 30% usage, right? And they probably have good income, meaning that these people aren't going into a home just to buy a home just because.
Right.
They're actually understanding the market, understanding the value behind home ownership. And so that's another indication that we probably won't see any crash because they don't want to ruin their credit. So
Right.
they're probably staying well under their budget.
Yeah.
Or within their budget, within their means, and if rates drop, they get to refinance.
So most of the buyers today can afford what they're budgeting for. They have a specific number that they're trying to target. They could probably afford more, but they definitely are trying to make sure that they keep their living expenses in order because they managed it well. And that's a beautiful thing because it shows how strong the economy is as a result of obviously the experiences that we've had in the past. I think more of the buyers that are buying today certainly have not just the confidence but the experience and the know-how to be able to navigate today's market. So it's a great contribution. The challenge that creates, though, to the economy overall is we are seeing our economy continue to grow. And that seems like a funny thing to say. Why should that be a problem thing? Well, the problem is back to the inflation factor and why the federal government will be continuing to raise rates for the rest of this year. That translates to you and I as paying more for more things for just the everyday thing, whether it's going out to a restaurant or my parents came in this weekend. They were complaining about paying $7 for a Starbucks coffee. And I mean, we're seeing it across the board, whether it's restaurants, food, gas, inflation. Those costs of living items need to go up in order for inflation to slow down. And because of how strong the economy is, it's just going to take longer for that to happen.
There's so much money being made right now, and that's the other key. The driving factor behind it is that there's a shortage of employees, right? So we have the lowest participation of jobs in Vegas.
Right.
And I've been talking about this with friends and colleagues. My wife has had issues with, keep maintaining employees because employees get a better job offer somewhere else and they end up leaving.
Right.
And so now they're short-staffed. And then that just translated into, well, if I can go make more money, well, they get to spend more money because that's what we all do is we make more money, we spend more money.
Standard of living is elevating.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so now $7 for a Starbucks coffee becomes normal because you can afford it. And unfortunately, it just puts a bigger wedge between the lower class and the higher class because kind of middle class is kind of disappearing.
Right.
And
Absolutely
so
right.
that's indication, or that's showing through home ownership too, because before one person can afford a home. Now you have to have multiple incomes to be able to afford a home. And that part is a little sad because we're huge advocates of home ownership. And we would love, to see more homeowners, but the reality is that not everybody can afford it at the moment.
Right.
And unfortunately, we don't see that changing very in the near future. So
just part of the effort of putting these podcasts out or these messages out is to be able to help folks be able to understand how they can get to a point to get themselves financially responsible, be prepared to be able to buy and navigate the marketplace. Because rates we expect to go up towards the end of this year, even next year, that means the cost to get a mortgage is going to be even more. And so the question is, do you rent or do you buy? And what's the payoff, scenario? What do they call it? The cost reward payoff.
Right. Well, at the beginning of the pandemic, you were thinking or most people were thinking, well, if I'm going to go pay $1,500 for a rent or $1,500 for a mortgage, I might as well buy something, right? And that drove for a frenzy of a lot of buyers. But now it's backwards. Now it's cheaper to rent in some cases than it is to own.
Yeah.
And so now, the question is really, why should I be owning?
Right.
Why should I go and own? Well, at the end of the day, it's still yours. And if you know how to play your cards right, you can get a good investment property, because we know that real estate is a long-term investment. So with the exception of the pandemic, as our friend Childers mentions, the unicorn years, where if you bought in 2019, you probably made a lot of equity in the last 2 years, but that was abnormal. That wasn't something that's going to happen very often. So we know that long-term investment, real estate, we know that if you put your money in real estate, you'll get your money back, regardless.
True.
So
True.
We all could need a place to live, so might as well own something.
Right. And so for some clients and some buyers, it's all about being able to prepare your finances, getting them ready to be able to purchase, be financially responsible. But one of the things that people have been asking about most frequently and lately, because people locked in their mortgages pre-pandemic, they've got some great rates, and that opens up an opportunity for buyers to say, hey, wait, can I assume that? Tell us a little more about the assumable loans. Yeah,
so typically you're looking at like FHA or VA assumable loans, or anything that's HUD loans. And basically you can assume the loan of somebody else. So if, for example, you bought something in 2020 for $350,000 at 2.5% rate, which was quite normal.
Amazing. Yeah.
So now you can turn around and basically sell that loan or transfer that loan over to a new buyer. Right. The only caveat to that is that, well, you can't include your equity into that, because if you bought it the early of 2020, you probably have well over $100,000 worth of equity right now.
Right.
And so now that new buyer will have to pay you out on that equity.
Right.
And that's where the biggest challenge is going to be, is on how to factor that in, because you can't go get a personal loan, because that might trigger for you to not be able to afford that home. And with the current rates, even $100,000 loan will probably still put you, might as well just buy it out on a regular loan. So if you have huge savings, if you have access to private money where it's not going to show up on your credit and it makes sense, assuming a loan is going to be great. On the seller side, though, there's also some restrictions, because they may not be able to qualify for that FHA loan or VA loan or something like that. So if they're going from FHA loan to a conventional loan, then that might work out. But if they're trying to go FHA to FHA or VA to VA, that seller may not be able to.
They need to check their terms to make
sure
that it works.
So there's some moving parts to that need to be checked. It's not just about going and doing it, and a lot of sellers don't understand that. So a lot of sellers are hesitant about actually accepting an offer like that. At the end of the day, it could affect you down the line. So you really got to think about it. Really have a sit down with somebody like ourselves that can really help navigate and explain that, and say, okay, long term, this is your long term goals or short term goals. Let's figure it out if it makes sense.
Right.
But if it does make sense, you might be able to even get top dollar for it, or even way more, because now even paying, let's say that house that you bought or somebody bought for $350 now is worth $500. Well, they got to pay them out $150,000 loan. But if you're going to give them an extra $10,000 or $15,000 to sweeten the deal, that loan is looking at like what, $1,800-$1,500.
Right.
Yeah.
Some sellers that need to sell might be able to transfer their equity to be able to pay off someone and then assume that loan. Each situation is unique. That's the beauty about this business. The one thing I really appreciate is you can't really standardize these processes, because everybody's profile is very different. Every situation is different. And then you try and match that up with the seller who's doing the same thing but completely different,
Yeah.
And it's the beautiful thing about being able to know all of your options, being able to explore any type of scenario that you're looking at. And our goal is to make sure you find the best one that works for you. So.
And these type of structure, these deals that we're structuring are going to become even more valuable as home prices go up and as rates go up. Especially if you're a seller,
right,
and then you need to sell. Let's say change of lifestyle, like where maybe you had a kid, or divorce, death, or something like that, where now it's not something that you want, that you have to do. Well, that's where, and the market is kind of fluctuating down. Well, that's where you can probably make an extra money, because you can say, hey, we'll do an assumption of this loan, but we want top dollar for it.
Sure.
And to a buyer that can afford paying out that equity, might be very valuable, from going from a 7% rate to even a 4% rate.
Yeah. Speaking of rates, they went up last week. For the first 6 months, they had touched 7, and then they stayed just below 7 for the most part. But because the strength of the economy, employment numbers came out, and we've seen rates go up over 7%. As of today, it was 7.12. For a 30-year mortgage. So the expectation is that we will probably see mortgage rates continue to climb gradually as the federal government continues to raise their rates on the cost of lending. And that is the expectation through the end of the year, with the goal, at least from the federal government's perspective, of trying to get into a recession early next year. So.
And recessions are not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
They're needed sometimes to be able to keep the economy at the proper pace.
Yeah.
Because right now we're too elevated.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of people fear recessions, or they associate them with 2009 or something like that. Just because we go in and enter into a recession doesn't mean that we're going to see the prices tumble.
Right.
Will we see them go down? Yeah, we'll probably, because as rates go up, less buyers. That's kind of what we need. We need more inventory or less buyers. Yeah. Right? Or both.
Yeah. So the hot topic right now, and the challenges that they're dealing with, in a good sense, if you're able to kind of like parallel the two experiences, we're in the best scenario possible with strong unemployment. Low unemployment, strong employment options, people spending money. But we're trying to throttle it back with the purpose of dropping inflation, which then drops prices. That's just going to fuel things even more. Mm-hmm. So it's adding octane to the fire.
And I see a lot of comments anytime a colleague posts a video, or even ourselves, we see comments where like, no, Vegas is going to crash. Vegas is going to crash, mm-hmm. right? And so if you've been keeping up with the news, Mark Wahlberg's been lobbying for Hollywood 2.0,
right.
Vegas to become the next Hollywood, right? And so if that happens, then we're going to see the luxury market increase, just explode, right? Yeah. We've already seen it. We've never seen anything go over 20 million sold here, and we saw multiple properties sell for over 20 million in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. So that's one. And so as you get directors, producers, camera guys coming in to do this, like Lex. They're not making $1 million deals, but they are making six figures. So now they're going to easily be able to afford that $500,000, $700,000 house. So it's going to trickle down from everything from, ultra luxury to luxury, like entry level luxury, to the higher end home. So we're going to see prices increase because of that, if that happens. And then look at all the entertainment that's happening. The Sphere just opened up, which is super cool. Fontainebleau is opening up in December, I believe. Yep. Formula One. The financial impact to Las Vegas, like the positive impact to that, and they're already scheduled next year's. Yeah, and it's going
to be a 10-year contract that they're doing.
Right. Yeah. Not to mention that we have the Super Bowl next year. Right.
Forget about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and then we just had the NBA Summer League.
Well, we have it every year, Summer League, right? But even LeBron James says that when he retires, he wants to bring in a NBA team here to Vegas.
Dang.
So if we get the Oakland A's, we get an NBA team, we'll have every single major sport here in Vegas, which is only going to increase that the demand for everybody to move here, right? Because honestly, this is a great city to live in.
It's fun.
So if you're on the fence about buying, you probably want to keep these things in consideration, because it's only going to get harder and it's only going to get more expensive to do so.
Yep. So if you have the capacity of making that happen now, of course, buying now will be your advantage because rates are still around 7%. If this economic recession goes on until late next year, well, we will more than likely see rates get into the 8s and possibly double digits, depending on how those things go. So just like we've been saying for the last couple of years, buy now because rates are low, buy now because rates are low. Yeah, it's a broken record because that's what's happening at the moment. If things starts changing, well, we'll let you know when that happens. But at the moment, that's the climate of our industry at the moment. And these are some of the options that you can consider when it comes to purchasing a home. And that is a critical component even for sellers, because if you're selling, you're more than likely going to buy the next one, and how to make that transition.
And if you're a seller and you have a really good rate, consider renting out that home and buying something else to continue building that wealth. And that's what we tell first-time home buyers, right? Don't focus on the dream home, because the dream home will come. Focus on just getting your foot in the door into something, a duplex, a triplex,
using it,
or a fixer-upper that, maybe is not in your ideal location. But if you build on that, if you can buy something that's been on the market for a long time, get it at under market value, which we have clients do, even in this market, it happens, and then they go and fix it up little by little. 3-4 years late from now, they'll call us. They'll want to buy something else because now they can afford it, right? Now they can go rent that. They have a really good payment on it, and if rates drop, then they can just refinance.
Then it's a whole different ballgame at that point. Yeah,
and so it's all about just understanding your specific need and your specific situation, and kind of stepping out a little bit out of your comfort zone, because of course we all want our dream home, but that comes, how many homes have you owned, Jared, before you actually got into what I would say your dream home, because you have your ideal location almost
three
right. But if you would have focused on the dream home in the first home, you probably would have been very disappointed, or you'd probably still be looking for it.
Hey, we bought at the worst possible time, January of 2006. If anybody can buy a home and screw it up, I'm here to test that you can get through it and work through it. Because, man, we bought the ultimate fixer-upper of fixer-uppers in 2006. I thought it was stupid paying $282 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,400 square foot home that needed to be completely regutted. And we did it, and it was fine. We could handle it. It was a lot of fun, our first home. And then we short sold it 6 years later for $82,000. And that's being in the industry. So we've learned a lot of lessons. We've seen the experience, and we know what it takes to be able to navigate all of the courses. So,
let us make the mistakes for you.
Learn from others, right?
That's right.
All right. Anything else before we wrap it up?
That's it. Thank you guys for watching. This always for you guys to watch our channel and watch our videos and like them and comment on them.
If you like it, share.
Helps our algorithms. YouTube is quite challenging sometimes.
You do it right, they help you out well. So like, subscribe, share. If you want to reach us on the socials, you can reach us at the 5 Diamond Group. My name is Jared with Urain Ordonez 5 Diamond Group. Oh man, let's try that again. My name is Jared Urain with the where did that come from? Isaac, take it away.
My name is Isaac with the Urain Ordonez 5 Diamond Group at Vice Realty. This is my business partner who can't say our name, Jared. And just to make sure I said his name, but definitely follow us on everything Vegas and real estate, and a little bit more, because we have pretty much anything under the umbrella that we can help you on.
Thank you for tuning in. This is the Move It podcast here at the 5 Diamond Group here at Vice Realty. Thanks for tuning in. Make it a wonderful day. Be cool like a butterfly.